Another thing is that his creation is also complete. It means that everything that we require is here. So the Lord is the complete whole, and all the emanations from the Lord are also complete in their requirements. There's nothing lacking in the creation of the Lord. And also, even though the Lord has expanded into so many varieties of energies, and yet he still remains the complete whole. So that is something unique, which is not experienced in the material world. Normally, if you have a whole object and you divide it into many parts, then that original whole disappears. Like I said last week, like if you had a pizza and you cut it up, or a cake or whatever. Once you divide it, then the original whole is gone. But that's not the case with the Supreme Lord. Even though he's expanded into unlimited living entities and the whole material creation, spiritual creation, he still remains as he is, the complete whole. He's not diminished in any way. And we gave an example of that from the material world, which is the sun. Remember we talked about the sun?
Yes.
So even though the sun radiates in energy since the beginning of the universe, it hasn't diminished in any way. It hasn't got any less. And I explained, like at the end of each day of Lord Brahma and the end of the universe, actually the sun gets 12 times hotter. It can just pump out even more power. So there's no diminishing of energy or power from the complete whole. And even the sun, we see, can do that. What to speak of the Supreme Lord. But just something to say about absolute. Often we come across that term, the absolute truth, or the absolute personality, Godhead, the absolute whole. So what is it meaning when it says absolute? That's something to think about and try to understand. One angle on that is that the absolute truth means
complete in itself.
What's that?
It doesn't need complete in itself. It's not dependent on any other things. Maybe that's what I understand.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So it doesn't depend on other things. So Krishna exists independently of anything else. He's not depending on anything else in order for him to exist. Like some people ask, where does God come from? Everything comes from God, right? We know that. But where does God come from? But God doesn't come from anywhere. He's always there. Even though when Krishna comes to the earth, he has his mother and fathers like Devaki and Vasudeva, and then he had Nanda, Maharaj, and Yashoda Mai. But they're just in the material world for the pastimes, the Leela, that he seems to come from a mother and father. But actually the fact is he doesn't come from any mother and father, that all the other mothers and fathers come from him. So that's just for the pastime, the Leela, that he appears to have a mother and father. And then that gives him pleasure, that he has loving relationships with some of his devotees in the role of mothers and fathers, and some of them in the role of friends like Arjuna, and some of them in the role of lovers like Radharani and Lalita Vishaka and so forth, and Rukmini and Satyabhama and like that. So different expansions of him play different roles with him eternally, and that's for his pleasure. And that's why Krishna does expand into all the parts and parcels, just like Prabhupada explains, just like why have a family? Because you're expanding your pleasure, because in the beginning you're by yourself, fun by yourself. So you get a wife, so you can have a relationship, and there's some interaction, some interchange like that, and then you expand it even more, and then you have one child and then two child and like that, and you have parents and grandparents and nephews and cousins, and so all those different relationships give different varieties of pleasure. So also originally that's why the Supreme Lord, why does the Supreme Lord, who's always existed, why does he expand unlimitedly into so many varieties of parts and parcels? Is to expand his pleasure. And that pleasure comes from the relationships that he has. And there's 5 main relationships. There's Shantaras, which means neutrality. And then there's Dasyaras. Dasyaras means servitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Sakyaras. Sakyaras means friendship. And then there's Vatsalyaras. That means a parental relationship, like we said, Devaki and Vasudeva, Nanda and Yashoda. And then there's Madhurya Rasa. Madhurya, or another name, Shringaras. That means conjugal loving relationship, like the gopis and the queens of Dwaraka, so many like that. And Dasyaras, servitude, that's like Krishna's chariot driver, Daruka. He's a servant of Krishna, Daruka. And there's so many that have like a junior position. They have a servitude kind of relationship. And like for Ramachandra, Hanuman. Hanuman is Dasyarasa. He has that Dasya Bhav. We call Dasya Bhav or Dasya Rasa with Ramachandra. He's a servant. And Rama's his master. So there's different. And Shantaras, neutrality, that's not an active relationship, but it's an appreciation of the greatness of the Lord. So you're appreciating the greatness of the Lord, but one hasn't begun actively serving the Lord. So that's said to be like, for example, in Vrindavan, like the trees and the creepers and other non-moving living entities, they have that Shantarasa. That's also a kind of relationship. And also there's many people that they appreciate that God is great and there's some attraction to the Lord, but they haven't started bhakti yet in terms of doing actively service, but still there's a connection with the Lord. That is a kind of relationship beginning. That's the beginning of the relationship where you appreciate how the Lord is so great and you're becoming attracted, but still not to the point where you're like surrendering. Okay, now I'm going to serve you. Now I'm going to devote my life to you and serve you. So it hasn't come to that point, which is the beginning. That's Dasyarasa, and continues from there. So that the Lord likes to have these different relationships, and that increases his pleasure. But he doesn't need anything in order to exist. Whether we exist or don't exist doesn't affect Krishna in any way. He's not depending on us. Whereas we, as the tiny soul, we're known as the relative truth. We're also truth. We eternally exist. But we're known as the relative truth. We're not absolute truth. We're not the absolute truth. We're the relative truth. It means our existing depends on so many other things. Is dependent. We're relative. So, like for example, relative to the sunlight, we exist. Like if the sun doesn't come up anymore, we can't exist, right?
That's right. Yeah.
We exist relative to water. It means without water we can't live. We're existing relative to food, relative to air, relative to Krishna's mercy in supplying us so many things that we need. So we're dependent. Our existence is dependent on so many other things. But Krishna's existence is not dependent on anything else. Therefore, he is the absolute truth. He's the absolute truth. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first sloka, it says, Janmad yasya yaton vayadatartas chatesa bigna swarat. So that's saying that person from whom everything emanates. That's the supreme person. So everything emanates from that supreme person, and he is completely cognizant. That means all-knowing, and also the other quality of the absolute truth, apart from being fully conscious or all-knowing, is swarat. Swarat, you've heard the word swarat, like you have the word swaraj.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Swaraj.
Yeah,
Means like the absolute king, the
king, yeah.
emperor, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
Swaraj.
yeah, Swaraj, yeah.
Independent. Like I think they call that when India got independence from the British, right? They call that Swaraj.
Yeah, Swa means I think independent or something. Swa, and then Raj means kingdom. So Swaraj means kingdom depend on itself. I mean, independent.
Yeah,
You
you're
are
you're
now not under British. Now you are
you're not under
independent.
British, so they call
Yeah.
that
So
Swaraj.
yeah,
So Krishna, he is Swarat. That means fully independent. And that's another way of saying, absolute. Another way of saying
yes,
that
sir.
it's absolute. So here's the absolute truth. So he's not dependent on anything else, but we're all dependent on him. We're relative. Our
Yes.
existence is relative to him.
Yeah.
So, but he's still set everything up in his creation just so perfectly. Like I said last week, we need air is here. We need food is here. And like I was saying, there's so many kinds of food, so many lovely kind of fruits, so many nice kind of vegetables, so many kind of spices. It's amazing how Krishna has set up everything so complete. There's nothing missing here. Nothing
That's
missing.
right.
Nothing
Mm.
lacking in any way in the material world, except for one thing. You remember last week we said there's one thing missing, one thing lacking in the material world, one thing that
The
is
real
not.
knowledge. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
spiritual knowledge.
the
Is it?
spiritual knowledge. That's it. So that is the one deficiency in the material world is there's so much ignorance, so much lack of spiritual knowledge. And why that's lacking, you say, well, that's a defect in Krishna's creation, that
Mm.
he hasn't given us the spiritual knowledge. But no, that's not a defect in Krishna. That defect is in us, that we don't want to be Krishna conscious. We don't want to serve Krishna. That there's a kind of rebellious spirit amongst the
Yes.
conditioned souls that we don't want to serve God, that we want to be God ourselves. So therefore, there has to be that lack of spiritual knowledge. Because if we had full spiritual knowledge, I mean, how can you avoid him? You can
That's
only
right.
avoid him if you're ignorant.
That's
So
right.
we want to be ignorant. So he has to create that. So that's also part of his perfect creation, that he's not going to force us to serve him. He wants to maintain our free choice, whether we love him or not love him. Of course, there can only be love if there's free choice. You can't force love, is there? Can you?
No, you can't.
You can't force it.
And I
You
think
can't
they
hold a gun to
and
someone's head,
yeah.
love me, my dear wife, love me, otherwise I'm going to shoot you in the head. No, it doesn't work like that. It's voluntary.
Mm. Yeah,
And
and
that's
if
what makes it
it's
special.
that's right. And you raised a very good question. Where why did he created this material world? He could be just the eternal happiness with just the soul. But
Yeah,
I think you only realize something important when you actually don't have it, right? And when you try to achieve it. If you already have it, then you don't appreciate it. And I
yeah.
think that's the reason why we are actually put into material world, so that we go through the miseries, and we understand, and then we look for why we are here, and then start questioning and all
Yeah.
those, some of us basically. But
Yes.
probably if you miss something, then you will be able to looking for something better.
Yeah.
If you already have the best, then you won't look anywhere else, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
probably yeah, yeah. Very good actually question. I mean, why didn't he created why did he created the material world? Why didn't he keep his the living beings as the as without material world
Yes.
in
In the
the
spiritual world. Yeah. Yes. Explain that see because we are all part of the Lord, part and parcel of the Lord. So he has complete independence and free choice. So we also have a minute independence and free choice. So we can serve him or not serve him or go against him, forget him. So that choice is there in the spiritual world, and some souls using their free choice misuse it and decide that they don't want to serve the Lord. So in that case, if you're a soul in the spiritual world and you don't want to serve the Lord, then where are you going to go? You can't
Mm.
remain in the spiritual world. So Krishna has to create another place where souls can exist without serving the Lord. And that's the material world, where we can have a go at trying to take his position, at trying to be God, trying to be the enjoyer, try to be the controller. So therefore, we create our own little kingdoms. My country and my house and my family and my wealth and my business and my sports team
That's
and
right.
I and mine, aham matey. So we're trying to imitate the Lord. So where are we going to do that? You can't do it in the spiritual world, because Krishna is the center of attention there, and everything revolves around him. So Krishna has to create another place, and that's the material world. So in one sense, I mean, Krishna created the material world, but in one sense, the original cause of the material world is us. It's only because of rebellious souls that the material world comes into creation. I mean, Krishna doesn't have any need himself for a material world. See, Krishna is enjoying in the spiritual world. He doesn't create the material world for his enjoyment. He creates the material world for the according to the desire and for the enjoyment and satisfaction of the souls, of the individual souls. I mean, you can say, what is the cause of the prison existing?
It's because people who are misbehaving or disturbing the society, they can be, to keep society peaceful, you're taking out
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're creating those prisons where
Yeah.
people
But
who
who
don't
created the
follow.
prison?
Well, we created, I mean, in this material world, but probably yeah.
You see, I mean, in one sense, the government created the prison.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But in another sense, the government only created the prison because there were people with a criminal mentality. If there was no one with a criminal mentality, do you think the government would create prisons?
No. Yeah, what's the need of that?
Yeah, I mean, if there's no criminals, then no need to create a prison. I mean, the government made prison, but did the government make a prison for the fun of it, or because they get pleasure out of it? No, but they create it because there are criminals that need to be, like you said, keep them away so society can be peaceful, and you try to rectify them. And the idea of the prison is also to rectify the criminals so they can come out, and after being punished, and they feel that, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I hadn't done that. I'm not going to do that again. They atone for their, bad ways and everything, and become an honest person again. They can be let out in society. And that's the hope of the government, that they can be rectified and be let back into society and become part of a peaceful society again. And that's the idea also of the material world, that through being punished and suffering and trying to enjoy without God, but realizing that actually I can't enjoy without God, and eventually that we turn back towards God and be rectified, and we happily use our free choice to serve Him and love Him, and that's the whole scheme of the material world. Actually, there's two purposes of the material world. One purpose is to give us an opportunity to fulfill our material desires, to try to be the enjoyer, to try to be the controller. So that's there, because that's what we want. We want to try to play God's role. So, okay, the material world is enabling us to fulfill that purpose is there. And the other purpose of the material world is to try to bring back the rebellious soul back towards being a loving servant again.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's a whole, so many arrangements are there. That Krishna comes, avatar, so many avatars, Kurma, Matsya, Vraha, Nrsimha, like that, Vamana, all these different, Rama, Chandra, Krishna, Balarama. There are so many avatars come to try to enlighten us. Here I
Keep
am.
reminding us, yeah. Keep
Remind
reminding
us,
us.
I'm your best friend. I'm the Supreme Lord. Love me, and you'll surrender to me. You'll never have any problems. You'll be happy. And the Lord sends His devotees. Like in the Christian tradition, Jesus Christ is a representative of the Lord, or Swami Prabhupada, or we have Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya, so many personalities, Nimbakacharya, Vishnu Swami, so many great personalities came and continue to come to try to petition on behalf of the Lord, to remind us that you're not the body of the spirit soul and you have a loving relationship with the Lord. And also he appears in the form of Vyasadeva and compiles all the Vedas. So he gives us the Vedic knowledge so that we can awaken our original consciousness, like we're here reading some from the Upanishads. So the Lord very kindly in the material world, he doesn't just toss us out of the spiritual world into the material world, throw away the key, and then you've got no hope of getting out of ignorance and go back. But there's so many ways the Lord's trying to help us through the Vedic knowledge, through the Guru, and then the avatars. There's so many things like that. And we have so many, and the Lord is appearing as the Archa Vigraha, as the Murti in the temple, very kindly. There's Radha Gokulananda or Radha Gopinath in Sydney, and all these different forms, Sita Ram temples, and, so many temples of the Lord is incarnating in that Archa Vigraha Murti like that, very kindly to give us darshan so we can, and give us Mahaprasadam. And there's so many things, and kirtans and everything going on. So the Lord is constantly trying to deliver us from the material world. Unfortunately, we're real hardcore rebels.
That's true.
Stubbornly attached to the material world. But the Lord never gives up on us. He always tries to help us. And that's a little bit about last week. Just recapping on that. So let's get into this one, mantra 1.
Mantra 1,
First
okay.
mantra. Ishavasyam I'll do that again.
Sorry.
Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatam Jagat Tena Chaktena Bhujita Magridha Kasisveddanam. Let's do it once again.
Okay.
Ishavasyam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagat Tena Chaktena Bhujita Magridha Kasisveddanam. Sarah.
Hello. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hello.
We were hoping and praying and begging to Krishna that you would appear. So you have. So that's good. And you said that you've got the Isopanisad, have you? The Sri Isopanisad? You mentioned you've got the book. Fantastic. So you can tune in. Okay, so we're just starting mantra 1. We've just been talking about a recapping on last week. So we haven't started yet. So this is mantra 1. So good timing. Okay, Narendra, would you like to read the English for this one?
Yeah, okay. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong.
So this is a very important part of the Vedic philosophy, understanding that there is a supreme controller. Now, in Western society, largely that knowledge is not there, is it? We think there's no one in control. There's always been demoniac persons. Even 5,000 years ago, when Krishna is speaking the Bhagavad Gita, he mentions in the 16th chapter, which is called the Divine Demoniac Nature, in the 16th chapter, I think it's text number 7 or 8, that Asatyam apraditistam te jagadohor anishvaram. So that's saying that the demoniac, they think the jagad, the universe, is anishvaram. Anishvaram means without any controller, no controller. That's the demoniac mentality. I remember before I met the devotees, I was also like thinking like that, demoniac way. There's no one in control. No one in control, you know. And that's the way I was brought up. My father was thinking like that. Probably his father was thinking like that. You know, I was thinking like that there's no one in control. Just everything happens by chance. Everything happens by chance. There's no one in control. And but actually the Vedas is explaining that there is a supreme controller of everything. It's mentioned here, animate and inanimate. You know what that means? What's animate and inanimate?
So anything which moves or
Yep.
not moves, like trees are inanimate, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Trees and rocks and so many things, they're not moving. And then animate means they're moving around. So 2 legs, 4 legs, or so forth, flying around or whatever, swimming around. So everything is controlled by the Lord. There's a saying, right? That not even a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. You heard that one before?
Yes.
Not even a blade of grass moves.
Yes.
So that everything is under the control of some different personalities. Of course, the way that the Lord has set up the material world, he's not directly controlling. He's not directly controlling everything in terms of Bhagavan. We're talking about Bhagavan now, about Krishna. He's not, you know, just controlling everything that Narendra does and everything that his kids do and everything that Sarah does, and he's not controlling everything that the cat, Sarah's cat, does and everything like that. And but he has created a system that is controlling everything in the material world, and there's so many demigods, so many devas. There's one demigod that controls your eyes blinking. Did you know that? There's a demigod that controls the air in your body, the prana in your body. There's 10 pranas, 10 called dasa. So there's 10 life airs in the body. One goes up, one like when you burp, right? That's the upward air. And when you go, when you fart, that's the downward air. And there's one that circulates clockwise, one that goes anti-clockwise. There's all kind of different ears. And the yogis, right? The yogis, they try to manipulate those ears in the body to bring up the soul. And they want to bring it up to the crown chakra, and leave their body, push it out, and go to the place where they desire. So like that, there's so many personalities in control. 33 million demigods. 33 million demigods. There's one that controls the air, right? Over all the air, Vayu. One controls water, that's Varuna. One controls the sunlight, that's Suryadev or Vivashvan at the moment. There's one that controls the, what did we say? We said water's Varuna. We said the air. And the fire, Agni Dev. So Agni controls fire. So there's like that. Indra controls the rain. Like there was a bit of rain today, so Indra has, arranged that it rains here today. He's got so many, people in his team. And there's someone that controls the time of your death. That's Yama Raja. He's an important one. Everyone's worried about that. Oh, Yamaraj, don't kill me. So I'll be a good boy, a good girl. So like that, there's someone that controls the time of death and where the soul goes. That's not under our control. We think, we have this. If we do believe in heaven, not many people do, but if we do believe in heaven, we'll say, everyone when they die, they go to heaven. But that's a very naive, sentimental way to think. He went upwards. He went to heaven, like that. Granny and grandpa, they all going to heaven and everything like that. But no, there's an authority that sees what the people have done in their life, and whether they've done punya, which means pious activities, or papa, which means sinful activities. And if you do punya, pious activities, then you go up to heaven. If you do papa, sinful activities, then you go down to a hellish life. But everyone thinks that everyone that dies goes to heaven, if they do believe in a heaven. I mean, my father doesn't think like that. He thinks that when the body's dead, you just become worm food. That's it. Just eaten up by worms. There's nothing after that. But so there's so many different people in control of different aspects of the universe. There's a personality in control of the earth. Who's that?
Bhumi
Yeah, Bhumi Devi.
Devi, sorry.
Means woman. A woman. So there's a woman that controls the universe. So she's very pious. She's a very pious soul. So who gets to be demigods? Then they're not actually God. And that's a mistake that many Hindus make. Many people think that all of the devas, they're all God. They're all in the same position. They're all.
I think they're all living beings which have elevated themselves, or because of
Yes. So they're in the same category as us. They're called Vibhanamsa Tattva, or Jivatmas. They're part and parcel of the Lord. They're not the Lord, but they're parts and parcel of the Lord, like us. It's called the Vibhanamsa Tattva, or Jiva Tattva, and living entities, tiny living entities. But they are very pious ones, have been selected to manage different parts of the administration of the universe. So, Krishna, what is Krishna doing? You don't see Krishna working hard, to manage things, because management is a hard job. I mean, I know just managing 15 people on New Gokula was a hell of a hard job. And, the guests that come, a few guests that come, whatever like that, and a few buildings in that, let alone manage a whole universe. So Krishna's not sweating it out. Like they have in the what is it, Greek? Is it Greek tradition? They have Atlas. About Atlas?
Oh.
There's this real strong guy. He's a god. He's a god called Atlas. And he carries the whole globe on his back. And he's like really sweating it out, trying to hold the whole planet up like that. So Krishna's not like that. He doesn't do any hard work. Natasya karyam karanam chavidyate. Natat samaschabhyadikashadushyate parasya shaktir vividhaya shuyate sabhaviki jnana balakriyacha. So that's from another Upanishad called Svaitasvatara Upanishad. So, and that's saying there that the Supreme Lord, he has nothing to do. That's pretty good life, huh? You don't have anything you have to do. Nothing. He has nothing he has to do. There's no cause of him working.
I think it's in the first verse. They say whatever emanates from his complete. So whatever world he has created, it's basically he has a kind of system which actually manages itself or something.
Yeah, that's so intelligent, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'd all love to create a business like that, right? That you set up the business and then you don't have to do any work after that. It sort of makes money for you without doing anything more. And so even. And that's actually that's a little secret. The richest people in the world, they tell that that's the way you really start to make money. Is that you're not that the money's making more money without you having to do anything. Even while you're sleeping, you're making money, and like that. So there's different techniques they have that keep making them more and more money. So, and they don't have to do anything. They can go and play golf, and like that. So Krishna's the ultimate at doing that. He creates everything like that and then sets it up that it's all self-sustaining. And so what is Krishna doing? He's playing on his flute. He's just enjoying. Krishna's playing on his flute and dancing with beautiful gopis and herding cows. He's having a lot of fun, and he's stealing butter and yogurt and feeding it to the monkeys and having butter fights and everything like that, and having big feasts and everything. So Krishna's having an eternal transcendental party and just playing forever in the spiritual world. But he's set up the material world, and he's appointed different demigods as his representatives to have a controlling power. So they're called Ishvaras. Ishvara means controller. And many people have that understanding about God, whether they're a Muslim or a Christian or a Hindu, that God is Ishvara. He's the controller. He's a controller. But Krishna, now hear this one. Krishna is not called an Ishvara. He's called Param Ishvara. Param Ishvara means supreme controller. That's the first verse of the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita from Lord Brahma. Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Savakarana Karanam. Ishvara Parama. You could say Param Ishvara or the other way around. Ishvara Parama. But Ishvara means controller, Parama means supreme. So there's many controllers, many Ishvaras, but there's only one Parameshvara. Like I said, 33 million Ishvaras, but one Parameshvara, one supreme controller. But many people, they put, Hindus especially make this mistake, they put everyone on the same level. That Shiva is God and Durga is God and Ganesh is God and Krishna is God and then they even go further and say, and I am God and you are God and everyone is God and like that. So, but that's not actually true.
Before I read the Bhagavad Gita,
yeah.
I was thinking like that.
Of course.
And people usually say that you have 33. I mean, if you talk to somebody who's not Indian, they said you have 33 million gods. So after reading Bhagavad Gita, you understand what basically the other god are basically devs. Basically, they are under God.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're going to explain the word God means controller, then we agree there are many gods. But then we have what Prabhupada said, the supreme personality of Godhead. That's an interesting word, huh? Godhead means the head of the gods. There's many gods, yes. Many. If you look at the terms of controllers, there's a control of the sun, control of the wind, control of the moon, control of the fire. But there's one supreme controller. That's why Prabhupada gave the title the supreme personality, supreme person of Godhead, the head of all the gods. Why did we never heard that word before, Godhead. What's this Godhead? Because he's the head, the chief of all the gods, of all the controllers. So then you can get it in our thick heads that there's a chief controller. So I mean, in one sense, we are all controllers in one way or another. I mean, Narendra is the controller of his family, unless your wife is. I mean, the wife might be, yes, but and the kids would like to be, but Daddy, get me this, do this. Often we're running around after the kids, right? Get this for me, do this, or so many things. So, or we have some business and we're the controller. We might have been the, controller of the bhakti tree and we handed it over to Brett. Now Brett's the controller, like that. So, we're everyone's a controller of something. Sarah's the controller of your cat, like that. So, but there's a supreme controller, and that's Krishna. And there's no one that controls him. So that's what it means. He's the supreme controller.
That's pretty good.
So very, very important, and that's established here in this mantra 1, that there is a person that controls everything. That's the Supreme Lord. And of course, the person that controls everything, he owns everything. He owns everything. It's his property. Everything is his property. That's a very important thing to understand, that everything is the property of God. Everything is owned by God. Everything is the property of God. That would solve so many problems, wouldn't it, in modern day society? Do you know how many wars we've had over these ownership issues? This is my land. No, it's not. It's mine. And we, so, and we're trying to stick our flag, you know, in the land and everything like that, and we take proprietorship and we put a fence around it and we put a barricade around it and we, you know, defend it to the death and everything like that, and the next generation carries it on, and, you know, so much anger and fighting and everything like that, and we're claiming proprietorship. And this is a big topic in the Bhagavad Gita too, that if you want to be a devotee, you have to be nirmama. Nirmama, mama means mine. Nirmama means not mine. That you have to understand, nothing is mine. Nothing is mine. I'm not the proprietor of this body. I'm not the proprietor of this house. I'm not the proprietor of this wealth. I'm not the proprietor of this country, this family. You know, nothing. That God is the proprietor of everything. Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And that's declared as the peace formula in the end of the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktaram yagnatapasam savaloka maheshwaram suridam savabhutanam gyatvam shantam richati. Krishna says there that the peace formula, shantam, is that to see that the Lord is the enjoyer of all of our sacrifices and austerities. He's the supreme enjoyer. He's the proprietor, supreme proprietor of all planets and demigods, and that he is the supreme friend of all living entities. And that's the peace formula, that we're going to be peaceful in society, individually, collectively, if we understand these three things. If we don't understand these three things, forget about finding real peace. You might want to have real peace. Prabhupada often ridiculed the United Nations because he said that although the United Nations is working to bring about peace and, you know, unity and everything, but every year the number of flags keeps growing. So if the number of flags is increasing in United Nations, you know it's getting further away from its objective, because the objective is to make one flag, you know, that we're all united. But if it gets divided, I mean, even like India is constantly being divided. This is not a good sign.
That's right, yeah.
5,000 years ago, there was only one flag. You know, it was called Bharatavash. It was one kingdom. But then since 5,000 years, then there's chopped it in 2, 3, 4, 5, and then now we have hundreds or thousands of flags, you know, so, and it's increasing year by year. So this is not a good sign. We're becoming more disunited. But if we accepted that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, he's the proprietor of everything, and everything is controlled by him, and he's the proprietor of everything, then we're going to be peaceful. And the other two parts was that he's the enjoyer, because that's the thing, we all think we're the enjoyer, and that causes a lot of conflict too, that we're all trying to be the enjoyer. We're all trying to be the enjoyer. And if you put a whole lot of people that think they're the proprietor, enjoyer together, you know what it's going to be like? What happens when you put a whole heap of dogs together?
They will fight, obviously.
Usually they're going to fight. Because that's that doggish mentality, that this is my place, and I'm the enjoyer of this place, isn't it? When the dog comes, right, they always pee on the bushes, right? So they're always marking their territory. This is my territory. So the other dog will come along with, oh, this is some other dog's place, I better get out of here. So this is that mentality, that we all think we're the enjoyer, we think we're the proprietor, and it ends up so much quarrel. I mean, that's why it's called Kali Yuga, right? Kali Yuga. Kali means quarrel. The age of quarrel and hypocrisy. That's the definition of Kali Yuga. So, and that's because we're all thinking we're the enjoyer and we're the proprietor. So we all fight over the resources of this world, thinking, no, this is for my enjoyment. No, it's not. It's for my enjoyment. No, it's not. It's for me to enjoy. You know, so we all claim that we're the enjoyer of the things and that we're proprietor of things. and we create so much, disharmony and quarrel and everything like that, and there's no peace in society. And so even though in modern advancement we have so much technology improvements and everything like that, but there's so much anxiety and fear and quarrel amongst the people. So we're not really getting all the benefits that we thought we would, even though we have great facilities. But we're so disturbed because we've adopted this mentality that we're God, that I'm the enjoyer, that I'm the proprietor, that I'm the friend, I'm your best friend, and like that. So, but actually, what kind of friend I am? I can't save myself from death, let alone you, so what kind of friend I am? Oh, I'm your best friend. Oh, really? Well, what are you really going to do for me? That if the husband says to the wife, if the husband's dying and he says to the wife, "Oh, my dear wife, I've served you so faithfully my whole life. Will you come with me wherever I go in the next life?" Just say, forget it. I'm going my own way. I'm not coming with you. So, it's every man for himself, so, what kind of, or we declare that we're friends or whatever like that, but our real friend is actually God. Who's the only one that comes with us when this body dies? Do you know?
Krishna.
Krishna. Krishna is Paramatma. He's the super soul. He's been with us ever since we fell out of the spiritual world into the material world millions of lifetimes ago. He's been with us every millisecond. And the body of a pig, and the body of a cockroach, and the body of a dog, and the body of a worm and stool, and the body of a demigod, and the body of a demon, everything like that. He's accompanied with us, and he's been, sanctioning and fulfilling our desires. That's in the 13th chapter, text 22, I think it is, Upadrastanamanta cha Paramatma Samahita, that he's been sanctioning and witnessing. Super soul, he sanctions and witnesses the different desires of the soul. Actually, without the super soul, we can't do anything. So I've said that the demigods control everything, but there's another personality that's also very, fundamental in the controlling of the material, and that's the super soul. And that is one of the features of God. As you know, there's 3 different features of God. There's Bhagavan, the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna, and then there's Paramatma, the super soul in the heart of everything. And there's Brahman, that all-pervading energy that goes everywhere. So, as I said, Krishna, he doesn't directly control the material world. He's playing his flute in the spiritual world, and he goes universe to universe and does his pastimes like he came here 5,000 years ago. And then he went somewhere else. But the Paramatma is constantly always with us. So, and another feature of the Lord is Paramatma. He's always with us, and he's controlling everything. He's witnessing our different desires and fulfilling our different desires. And otherwise, there's no way I would have got this little bit of a farm here in New Zealand. Paramatma has been listening to my desires, and he's very kindly sanctioned my desire to get a farm, and my desire to have a stream with good water, and my desire to plant trees and everything. So I thank Krishna every day. Thank you. That without your mercy, we could never have got this situation.
Paramatma actually also keeps the karma register or something, a ledger, I think so. But like whatever you do in this life or next life, there's a kind of ledger maintained by. I mean, just analogy,
Yeah, he knows everything. Yeah. That's in the 8th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, text 7. Kavim Purana Manishasitaram. So he knows everything. Kavi means great. He's a very learned and great knower. So he knows everything. But definitely, so he knows what everyone has done and what we haven't done. But also there is a physical ledger he doesn't keep a physical ledger because he's got a perfect
Obviously.
memory. He doesn't need to write anything down.
Yeah.
But there is a ledger written by Yamaraja's servants, the Lord of Death. They keep a ledger also. They keep a written record. And that's, Chitragupta is his right-hand man, And he's got a big team. He's got a big team keeping track of all the...
So yeah, so
Bad
they're
things.
keeping good karma and bad karma. What is the net? Is it total bad or good? And depending
Well,
on
that's
that,
the thing. Everyone's got a
yeah.
mixed bag. Everyone's
Mixed
got a
bag,
mixed
yeah.
bag. Everyone got a bad. So see, karma is so complicated. Okay, you die and you've done, 100,000 good things and 200,000 bad things. So which one are you going to get the result of first? Are you going to get the results of the good things first or the bad things first? So that's all decided by them, not by you. Yeah, I mean, you'd like to say, well, I want to get all the good things, but that's not up to you to decide.
Yes.
So that's under their control. Whether there's one pastime in Srimad Bhagavatam where there was a great king named Nirga, and he did unlimited good things. He gave away cows and charities to brahmanas and so many things. He did good. He only did one bad thing, and that really blew him out in the end. That was he gave away a cow in charity to one brahmana, and that cow somehow or other got back into the king's herd, into King Nirga's herd, and then he gave the same cow away to another brahmana, and somehow or other those two brahmanas found out, and they started arguing, and they both said, "This is my cow. I want this cow," and the other one said, "No, this is my cow." So they fought over this one cow, and they couldn't resolve it. So they went back to the king and said, "What's going on? You gave away the same cow to both of us, and you sorted out. I want this cow. And they both said, and what is he going to do? He can't cut it in half. So he said, "Look, you give the cow back to me, and I'll give both of you 10,000 cows each." That's a good deal, isn't it? But they didn't accept it. They said no. Why? Because that's dharma. That's religious duty. That if you get given a gift in charity, you can't take it back. You can't. It's against the natural laws. So they weren't thinking about profit calculation. They're not Vaishyas. They're not. If they were businessmen, they would have said, "Yeah, let's take 10,000. Cool." But they were brahmanas, so they have to upkeep the truth. They have to be the upholders of satyam, truthfulness. So the king gave with a vow, with truth, gave that gift of a cow in charity, and that has to happen. That can't be taken back. Many times it would be like that previously. If someone made a vow, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to give you this, that would have to happen. If that didn't happen, they would die. They would kill themselves. They would, rather than become a liar. That was so important previously to uphold truth. That if I give my word of honor, was so important before. If I give my word, we have that saying right in English, I give you my word of honor. That used to be something. Now we say one thing and we break it 2 seconds afterwards. There's no kind of real morality like that much anymore, and truthfulness and honor and stuff like that. But previously, people had so much honor, and they were so upholding truthfulness, and they would never break that at any cost. So they both went away very upset. So neither of them took the cow. They left the cow with the king, and they both stomped off, very upset. And then in due course, the king died. And when he died, he went before the Lord of Death, Yamaraj, and said, "What do you want to enjoy first, the results of your pious activities or the results of your sinful activities?" The king was thinking, I've done a hell of a lot of good things, and I don't think I've done much bad things. Let me get the bad things out of the way. Let me get the bad things out of the way so that I can enjoy without any worries about in future there's something bad coming up. Because, I mean, how are you going to enjoy, right? If in future you think, oh, down the line I'm going to have to suffer, better to get the bad stuff out of the way, right? So Yamaraj gave him a choice in that case, that what do you want to get? So he said, let me enjoy the bad stuff first. And then he became, and that was a reaction to those two brahmanas upsetting them and giving the same cow away. He became a lizard, the bottom of a well. Not a very good birth to take, let alone being a lizard, but on top of that, in the bottom of a dry well. And in India and other places, many times there's called dry wells. So there's no water in the well. It's just a dry well. So he was in the bottom of a dry well. But he was actually very fortunate, and there's a reason for that too. That was during when Krishna was present on the earth. When Krishna was present on the earth, so King Nuga was down the bottom of the well as a lizard, and Krishna's children were playing one day, and they leaned over this dry well and saw the lizard at the bottom. They tried to get it out, but they couldn't get it out, because obviously it's very far down. So they called their father, Krishna. Hey, Dad, hey, we need some help. Please come over here. So they called Krishna over, and Krishna got the lizard out. Do you know how he got the lizard out? Because very far down the bottom. Do you know what he did? Krishna extended his hand. It means it just went. Krishna can do anything, right? Because he's God. So Krishna proved by every one of his pastimes that he's God. I mean, who can do that, right? Their hand just expands, to 30 feet long, like that. So Krishna pulled the lizard out of the well, and as soon as Krishna touched the lizard got purified of all of his sins, and he got back his form of King Nuga. So these kids are like all wide-eyed, seeing this lizard turn into this effulgent, heavenly-looking king. And then the king told everything, and then Krishna said some things, and Krishna made a point that, never take the property of a brahmana. Never take. He said, even if they're my own family members, if they take the property of a brahmana, that's it. Krishna is very protective of the brahmanas, because brahmanas have devoted their lives to spiritual life. So therefore, they don't have any time for making money and making profit and doing business and everything. So generally, traditionally, brahmanas are very poor, and they're just depending on the Lord, whatever the Lord provides, like that, and whatever charity is given to them. And so to take their property is very sinful. It's very sinful to take a brahmana's property. We have to be very careful about that. Of course, in Kali Yuga, there's not many true brahmanas. Often the Kali Yuga brahmanas are very rich. In India, they're crooks, But I mean, a real brahmana, you have to be very careful. If someone truly is devoted to spiritual life, and not very, and not endeavoring for, economic development and so forth, and if you take their property, I mean, there's enough karma in that to sink a battleship. There's enough karma there to sink a battleship. And the opposite there too, if you give something to a qualified brahmana, you've just got your ticket to a very high place in your next life. If you give to a real devotee of the Lord, that's devoted to the Lord, you've just accelerated your pious activities hugely. So it's a double-edged sword. If you deal with the devotee of the Lord properly, you get great credit, and if you deal with the devotee of the Lord badly, you've you've cut your own throat. So yeah, so that's a bit about that. How do we get onto that? We're talking about desires, the super soul,
Proprietorship.
proprietorship. Yeah.
I remember one thing about proprietorship. We say in India that what did you come with? When you born, what did you come with? And when you die, what did you take?
Yeah, it's so true. We should think always about that.
It's nothing yours. You just
nothing's else. But then while we're here for a short time, we claim everything's mine. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. I mean, Prabhupada talks about this a little bit. A couple of things I remember. We can still see some of it in India, how people understand that everything's God's property. One time, Prabhupada was walking, a morning walk. He would walk every morning for his health, and he was walking with some disciples. And they walked onto some farmer's land. And the farmers came up to the group of devotees and said, and they saw he's like a saintly person. They're like saintly people. And there's the Swami. It's like a, elevated person there. And they came up to Prabhupada and said, thank you, Swamiji, for coming onto our land, for blessing us by coming onto our land. Thank you so much. So like that. And Prabhupada turned to the devotees afterwards and said, just see, in India, you come on someone's land and they're thanking you for coming on their land. If we had done this in America, they would have shot us. Isn't it? Trespassers will be shot on sight. We have that sign in the West, right? You go into someone's land, they'll shoot you. But like a real cultured place, they're like grateful. They're like thanking and understanding that it's God's property like that. And we're just caretakers, Another time, they were in India and they had an ambassador. It's a particular kind of car, ambassador car. And it's a very standard kind of car. It was in India like 40 years ago. Now it's all different cars are there. But previously there was only sort of not many cars, just one kind.
That's true.
And so they'd gone on a walk and then came back to the car, jumped in the car, and the car wouldn't start. And they keep trying, it's not going. And then two strange men got into the car beside Prabhupada and beside the driver. And the devotees are wondering what's going on. And then they realized that wasn't their car. That was someone else's car. Because all the cars look the same. They got to someone else's car. And they said, thank you for coming into our car and blessing our car. Where do you want to go? We'll take you. So not only did they grateful for coming into their car, but they wanted to drive them somewhere. Imagine you did that anywhere else. Imagine you got into someone else's car. They would kill you or call the police or something. Or think you're a nutcase. But like that, just a completely different mentality where you're not seeing yourself as a proprietor. Not seeing yourself. Oh, yeah, so we were talking about how we got on that story because you're talking about, Yamaraj and, good things and bad things and like that. So, but generally, you don't have any choice in the matter when you die where you're going to go. It's simply these higher controllers determine where you will end up in your next life. So yeah, we're helpless with that. So we have no choice at that point. The choice we have is now. Now we have choice. You're going to do good things or bad things. Once you've done the good things or bad things, then the reaction, you don't have any choice over the reaction. You have a choice over the actions. Your choice is in how you're going to act. How you're going to respond to every situation you're put into in your life. That's where you have your choice. After you make your choice and you act, you've made your choice, the situation is taking place, you respond to the situation in a particular way with your free choice, And then after that, there's going to be a reaction. So that you have no more choice.
Control.
You know, the free choice is in, you're put into a situation in your life, and then you have that minute free choice. You know, how are you going to respond? How are you going to react to that situation? That's your choice. And then after that's done, like someone comes into the room very angry, you know, and then I get angry, and then I punch them in the face. You know, so immediately that's your free choice. You know, no one made me punch him in the face. I chose to punch him in the face. You know, I could have done something else, you know, ran out of the room or called the police or whatever, you know, or try to cool the person down, or there's so many choices you can have. So we're making the choice, and according to every choice we make, there'll be different reactions like that. And so, yeah, the time of death, that's all out of our hands. And of course, if you choose to do devotional service, you know, to try to please the Lord by doing activities to please the Lord, that's the ultimate use of free choice. And then there's going to be wonderful reactions to that, wonderful reactions that the Lord's going to become pleased. The Lord's going to become pleased. And if the Lord's pleased, then we're free. We're set free from the bondage of karma, set free from the bondage of karma. There's one verse I was just thinking of in Srimad Bhagavatam about pleasing the Lord, and it's saying, Dayaya Sarvabhutesu Santustya Yanikainava Savendriyopasanchacha Tusyatcha Ashu Janardana. That Janardan, that's another name of the Lord, means the maintainer of all living entities. Sort of related to what we've been reading here, that the Lord maintains all the living entities, is satisfied. Tustyatya. So tushya is satisfied by three things. Dayaya sarvabhutesu. If you're merciful to all living entities, and that's your choice. You know, if you're going to be merciful or you're going to be cruel, like that. So if one of merciful to all living entities, and santustya yanikainava, satisfied, always satisfied. Whatever you get according to your past karma, whatever you're destined to get, you're satisfied with that. You're not dissatisfied, which we often, in materialistic persons, always dissatisfied. I deserve more. I deserve more. Johnny's telling me to quieten down a bit. Yeah. So, but a Krishna conscious person is always satisfied. Oh, Krishna, thank you so much. I don't deserve this. What you've given me. You've given me so much. I don't deserve this. You know, I deserve to suffer, but you've minimized that, and you've given me more happiness than what I deserve. So he's always satisfied with whatever they get. And then savendriyo pasanchacha. It means controlling the senses. So it's saying a person that does these three things is merciful to others, satisfied and controlling the senses, pleases the Lord. Pleases the Lord. So that's what we should use our free choice in these ways, to act in such a way that pleases the Lord. And then we become very fortunate. And it's getting back to this, that there's someone that controls everything. Just look at it logically. There's someone in control of everything. Shouldn't we toe the line? Shouldn't we try to please the person that's in control? Doesn't that make sense? Why would you try to peeve off or displease the person that's in control, the boss? You know, if you're a worker in an organization, what are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to please the boss, or are you going to try to make him upset? Only an idiot would try to make the boss upset, because what's going to happen to you? you're going to get booted out of the organization. You're going to lose your job. You know, you're going to get a black mark on your record, on your CV is not going to look very good. That, you know, there's so much bad results. You know, if you're a child living in your parents' house, what are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to please your mum and dad, or are you going to try to upset them? If you're an idiot, you know, you try to upset your mum and dad, but that's really stupid because they're the ones that feed you, they're the ones that clothe you, they're the ones that educate you, they're the ones that get you out of trouble when you're in trouble, you know, they're the ones that are going to pay for your education. You know, you're just like a moron if you go against your mother and father when you're living with your mother and father because they're controlling everything. You know, so why do we do that with the Lord? You know, so we're living under the control of the Lord. You know, why don't we, you know, acknowledge him and thank him and be grateful and try to please him? That would be sensible to do, just logical. But this idea of saying there is no God and there's no one in control and we don't care about God and I can do anything I want and I'm not accountable for what I do, and this is atheistic philosophy is just completely nonsensical. It's just completely foolishness, you know.
Illogical,
Yeah, once we understand there's someone in control, to be disobedient like that is just lining ourselves up for a miserable life. If we're smart, because of course everyone wants to be happy, but I mean, to be happy, all we have to do is please the person that's in control. And then the person in control, he's in control, so he can supply you with whatever you want, whatever you need. You know, like if the parents are happy, the kids are going to get whatever they want. If your boss is happy, you know, you're going to get whatever you want. You know, you'll get your pay rise and everything you want, you know. So if the government's happy with you, you'll get whatever you want. I mean, like if you displease the government, that's pretty stupid. You know, if you break the rules of the government and I got a speeding ticket. I have to admit, I have to be truthful. I got a speeding ticket recently. So I broke the rules of the government. I went a little bit too fast in the area I was in. I thought I was in a 50k zone, but actually it was, I thought it was in a 70. It was actually a 50k zone, but it was my mistake. And, you know, the policeman gave me a ticket. So then I have to suffer, you know, because I broke the rules. You know, so we shouldn't want to do that. We should follow the rules, and that's called dharma. Dharma, Dharma, dharma means the laws of God. So this is what every living being should follow, the laws of God. If you go against the laws of God, that's called adharma. Adharma. Adharma means to disobey the laws of God. That's called adharma. And to follow the laws of God is dharma. So we should, first of all, we have to understand, the first thing is to understand there is a supreme controller to everything in the universe. And we should follow the laws of that supreme controller and not go against them. If we go against them, we're going to have to suffer. And as mentioned in this verse, that we should only take our quota. Remember, everything is the property of the Lord, and we're all the children of the Lord, so he's giving each of us a share of his property, right? Narendra is a child of the Lord, Sarah is a child of the Lord, Abhay is a child of the Lord, and you get a share of Krishna's property, Sarah gets a share, I get a share, everyone. But then Narendra can't take Sarah's share, Sarah can't take Abhay's share. We have to be satisfied, getting back to that, right? We should be satisfied with our share. If you're not satisfied and think, if I get everyone else's share, then I'm going to have a lot, I'm going to enjoy more. I can enjoy. But remember, we're not the enjoyer. Krishna's the enjoyer. We just want enough to maintain ourselves. We're not want to accumulate more and more to enjoy. The enjoyment doesn't come from taking the property of the Lord. The enjoyment for the soul comes from a loving relationship with the Lord. You don't need a lot of things to be happy, to enjoy. What you need is a loving relationship. Put up your hands if you think material things can make you happy. Yeah. No, but it's relationships that make us happy. Relationships that make us happy. So otherwise, everyone that's a millionaire would be super happy. But we see often they have so many problems. And they commit suicide and have so many anxieties and so forth. So it's not material things that make us happy. But one devotee, he had a very nice saying he quoted. It used to be in society that we loved people and used things. But now we have in society where we love things and we use people. So that's not a good sign. But it's so true. You love people. It means relationships, not you love things. We use things which help us in our relationships. Which help us in our relationships. But it's the relationship that's the main thing. So we should be satisfied with whatever quota we're getting from the Lord. Prabhupada mentions, for example, like God is supplying a cubic meter of food every day to an elephant. That's the elephant's quota. It needs a lot to eat. And he's providing a grain of sugar to the ant. It's not that the ant gets the elephant's quota and the elephant gets the ant's quota. No, everything has a different quota depending on its particular situation. So it's not all the same quota. You understand what I'm saying? So depending on our karma, you have a particular body and everything like that. So depending on your past karma and the body you have and everything, you'll have a particular quota. And it's not the same for everyone. See, the quota for a tiger is meat. But that quota is not for a human being. The quota for a human being is vegetarian food. Krishna says, Patram puspam phalam toyam. So to eat fruits and vegetables and so forth. So we all have different quotas. If a human being takes meat, that's another's quota. That's not your quota. You've taken the quota of some other thing. So then that becomes a dharma. That becomes sinful. If you take others' quota, if you take more than what you need. Prabhupada also points out stories like, imagine there's a pile of rice sitting on the ground. If some animals come to that pile of rice, what will they do?
Just take what they need.
Take what they need. If a human being comes to the pile of rice, imagine it's 20 kg bag of rice. What will the human being do?
He will pick up the bag, the whole bag.
He'll take the bag. He'll probably eat one cupful and sell the rest for some profit or whatever. Or keep it for the next year. Keep it for the next year. Whereas animals and that only take what they need for the day. But we're thinking, in future, and I can sell this and make money and do so many things. So, but that 20 kgs could have fed how many people? But one person is taking 20 kgs. But he only needs, actually, because we've been cooking for a big amount of people. One person on average eats 1/3 of a cup of raw rice. 1/3 of a cup of raw rice, when you cook it, it becomes 3 times as much, at least. So it becomes 1 cup. So that 1/3 of a cup raw rice becomes 1 cup of rice. So generally 1/3 of a cup of raw rice is enough for one meal. But a human being will just take the whole 20 kgs, which could have fed, hundreds and hundreds of people. So this is a dharma. This is going against the laws of God. So these are very important things. So unfortunately, we'd like to talk a lot more, but unfortunately, time is running short as usual.
Yeah.
So I recommend, please read through the purport, and we may go through the purport next week. Let's see, and also, if you haven't already, the introduction. The introduction is really important, really good. Prabhupada talks about the 4 defects of a conditioned soul, and he talks about the meaning of the Vedas and so many important things. So it's good to look at the introduction and in the purport. But that's basically the point here, understanding that there is someone in control, and we should try to follow the laws or the instructions of the person in control, and only take our quota given to us by the Lord, and don't take the quota of others. I mean, it's good that we actually talked about that story of King Nurga and the lizard in the well, because that sort of fits in well with this about don't take another's quota. Don't take another's quota. So that's very sinful to do like that, and modern day society is terrible at that. And no wonder why we have coronavirus and so many cancers and so many traffic accidents and so many droughts and famines and earthquakes, and because these are all reactions to disobeying the laws of God. We cannot expect that you can get away with disobeying the laws of God and there won't be a reaction. There will be. And these are natural consequences of going against the laws of nature and the laws of God. And but we can avoid all these things. They're completely avoidable if we just follow the laws of God. In a perfectly functioning society where we do follow the laws of God, like we only take what we need and all these things, then there wouldn't be so many diseases and natural disasters, and there wouldn't be so many different kind of miseries. It would be a lot more auspicious. Things will go much better. It's said, like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, talks about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, which was in a previous age, Treta Yuga. And at that time, when Lord Rama was ruling the world, and all the citizens towed the line, they loved him so much, and they always tried to please him, realizing that he's the Supreme Lord and we're his servants. So they always tried to please him and behave very, very well, and were all devoted to him. It's said at that time, there was no old age. This is in the material world. I'm not talking about the spiritual world. This was in the material world about 2 million years ago. There was no old age. There was no disease. And check this one out. You didn't even have to die if you didn't want to. In the material world, in Treta Yuga. There's no old age, no disease, no natural calamities, no earthquakes, no tsunamis, no famines, no droughts. It was never too hot, never too cold. It was sunny in the day and it rained at night. You know, everything, nature was, there was perfect cooperation. If there's perfect cooperation between nature and humans and God, it's like a triangle. Between nature and humans and God, then that's like just heaven on earth. It's just perfect. But now the human beings, we go against nature and we go against God. And nature and God are just so much more. Nature is like Durga, you know, and the controller of nature is Durga, Mother Nature, right? We say Mother Nature, so that's Durga. And then God. And we're just getting kicked in the bum left, right, and center. It's no wonder. No wonder. And we're definitely going to come out on the bottom, not on the top. But that can be changed, you know. Once again, free choice. We have free choice whether I follow the laws of God or I disobey them. That's my choice. No one's forcing me to be disobedient. I'm choosing to be disobedient or obedient. So better I choose to be obedient son than a disobedient son, you know. So we all have to think deeply about that. And then we try to help others also. The obedient son then tries, or daughter, tries to bring in the other disobedient ones and try to help them to, it's a better life, mate. It's a better life, bro. If you toe the line and be obedient, it's a better life, you know, and you try to help them, you know. So, and then the father will be more pleased. If one of the obedient sons bring back, you know, a few of the wayward children, father will be very happy. Oh, my dear son, thank you so much for bringing back my other children. I was missing them so much. Thank you. I bless you. Then you're so fortunate. So like we said, Daya Savabutesu should be merciful, kind to other living entities by helping them to, reawaken their loving relationship with the Lord. And, be satisfied, always be satisfied with whatever your quota is, whatever you've gotten. Be satisfied with that. Never be dissatisfied. And control your senses. Keep your senses under control. We have to be the master of the senses. That's called Goswami. We have to become swamis or Goswamis, which means master of the senses. Use the senses in Krishna's service, not be under the control of the senses. Yeah, use them for good purposes. So thank you very much.
Thank you very
Anyone want to
much.
say anything? Either of you want to say anything? Any comments or questions or some realizations?
Lovely looking out the window before. Of your land. Lovely.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Your is it, you named your rooster Krishna, and I could see on your window there's a Krishna rooster looking over your shoulder.
Oh, okay.
It's on your window a little bit.
Yeah. It's dark now. I
But
don't
there was
think
a
we can
little
see in the dark, but yeah, there's a
rooster
glass. What do you call it? Stained glass rooster in the window.
looking
Isn't it too late for you there? I mean, it's going to be 9 o'clock, right?
It's 8:30. Yeah, 8:30.
8:39.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's all right.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, both of you too.
Yeah.